want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. My name is Michael Evans, and you're listening to America's Voice Now. I'm your host this hour and every hour. This morning is Friday. Doreen Hannes will join us in a few minutes. I'd like to talk this morning in reference to the betrayal of everything which Americans hold sacred, and that is our privacy. You know, it's amazing to me, although not surprising, that it took a UK paper to break the story, because our media is now the ministry of propaganda. I say that because it's blatantly apparent that our media has no intention of acting as their true fourth estate requirement and duty. You know, the New York Times came out the other day and said that the Obama administration has lost all credibility, and that's a stinging rebuke for the Obama administration, especially from the New York Slime. But what's interesting is that after they said that, and this editorial originally stated, the administration has lost all credibility. But a few hours later, they modified it and stated that the administration has now lost all credibility on this issue. Well, I beg to differ. This administration has no credibility. And in fact, neither does the Ministry of Propaganda. And that's why they are so determined to make sure that this guy stays in office. Just think about it for a moment. They recognize very clearly that they have no more credibility in the marketplace, and that they've destroyed their own reputation and their own integrity in their blind support for a tyrant. So think about it this way. If Obama gets out of office, what's left for them? What's next for them? I mean, they'll have no credibility with any type of constitutional government. They'll have no credibility with a conservative administration, if such a thing could exist with the current duopoly system. So they kind of have to stick with their man. They put their eggs in his basket, and now all they can hope for is that when 2016 rolls around, things are so bad he doesn't leave. Then they can become blatantly, openly, hostilely the Ministry of Propaganda. The New York Times, the Washington Post, those types of organizations and papers have always been supporters of the left, the progressives, the liberal, the mindset that declares that everything is wrong with our current status and we need to be more open, more liberal, more whatever. But the simple truth is, in order to keep up some pretense of independence, they have to, from time to time, come out and throw a rock. Otherwise, the American populace would recognize very clearly that they're not who they say they are. But even when they throw a rock, they keep a string tied to it so they can pull it back, as the New York Times just did. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, we were always told never throw rocks because you never know where they're going to hit. Apparently, our entire media is more interested in distraction and in supporting lies and misrepresentation and misdirection than they are in telling us the truth. Personally, I find it offensive because we rely on them to be truthful. We always have. The United States of America and public opinion have long relied upon press to act as a watchdog against government out of control. And yet we see in every respect, in every aspect of our lives, they have absolutely no integrity, no honor, and no journalistic integrity. They're willing to lick the boots of this tyrant in an effort to feather their own nest. Shameful? Oh, yeah. Where will their credibility be if Obama ever leaves? You see, this is why we'll have difficulty ever trying to impeach a tyrant like him. Because they'll come out there and they'll support him no matter what he does. They already have. They've proven that they're willing to hide his birth certificate issue, his lack of vetting, his incredible failure as a senator, his incredible failures as a president, the dirt, the skullduggery, the scheming, the conniving of an administration that's been in power now for, 6 years? Or 5 years, excuse me. Unfortunately, folks, if you look back at the last 5 years, we have 3 more to go. 3.5. What that tells me is that 2016 is a lifetime away. A lifetime of abuse, a lifetime of oppression, and a lifetime to allow them to solidify their grasp on the American populace. How much more can they do? I mean, they're already monitoring everything that you say, everything you do. What will be the next tyrannical step? I don't know, but they're coming at us so fast and furious these days, it's hard to imagine that there aren't more things up their sleeves. I mean, the IRS is being used as an assault weapon against anyone who disagrees with this tyrant, the Kenyan who calls himself the president. I saw and witnessed directly myself the proof that his birth certificate is a fraud. When I was at CSPOA, Mike Zullo was there from Joe Arpaio's A Cold Case Posse. He showed us a presentation. We were there for hours going over it. That and his draft registration under selective service. You call it what you want. It's a draft. Both are a fraud. And I can empirically say, without a doubt, knowing exactly how they did it and using those tools myself every day, that it was a fraud. I can see exactly how they did it. It was as plain as day. And one would have to be a complete idiot to not believe the evidence that was in front of us. Everything about this man, everything about this administration, everything about this government is geared, designed and focused to betray you and to betray the United States of America. What their ultimate evil plan is, I don't know. But I can say this. It ain't good. We'll be back in just a moment.
Movies from 1999.
It moves like it has a mind. Like it knows it killed the world once. It got a taste for murder.
Can you name that movie?
That is Deep Blue Sea.
Robin Willow Springs. Do you have a belt right now? I mean, you should be putting notches in your belt for every one you win.
I'll have to think about doing that, yeah. Pretty good.
All right. Hey, Rob, we appreciate your call this morning.
All right, thanks a lot.
Join Cooper and Company weekday morning 6 to 8 a.m. here on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
From Gitmo Guard to advocate for human rights on the next Alan Colmes Show. After witnessing atrocities that went on while guarding detainees at Guantanamo Bay Prison, one former soldier converted to Islam and set out on a mission to close the notorious prison. He'll share his story, plus one of America's most familiar voices, Dick Summer, on the next Alan Colmes Show.
Weekdays 9 to midnight. It's the Alan Colmes Show on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
Well. We're back. We're being joined by Doreen. Doreen Hannes, as you know, joins us on Fridays. Last Friday, she wasn't able to join us because we did a recorded program because I was over at the CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Annual Convention in St. Charles. That's where I saw, by the way, the evidence of Obama's faked birth certificate. They did it in Photoshop, by the way. It ain't rocket science, folks. A first-year Photoshop tinkerer could have accomplished what they accomplished. And I find it personally shameful that they would have tried to pawn that off as a legitimate certificate on America. We actually had a discussion after the video as to whether or not they were actually that stupid to have posted this thing with 9 layers that you could peel apart in Photoshop, or whether it was just sloppy work. I mean, it was stunning. Good morning, Doreen. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. I'm, happy to be alive, I guess.
Yeah.
We sure do live in interesting times.
Huh? Well, I mean, for the NSA who's monitoring this show, go get stuffed.
Well.
I mean, they are. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? We may as well not gild the lily, as it were.
Well, I happen to be doing the show on a cell phone today, so.
There you go. They're listening to your side of the conversation and my side. Don't you just love it?
Perhaps we could confuse them.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, actually, Mike, I was thinking about potential ways to throw a cog in their spokes, if you will.
All right.
And pretty much I gave up on overloading their capacity to harvest the data because we have no idea how much they can actually hold. But we might be able to get the people who are still asleep awake from being asleep if we did something that was effectively like a national unplugged day where everybody just unplugged their phones and turned off their computer and unplugged their television and went and played outside.
Well, first of all, some people would actually get a day off in the NSA if we did that.
Well,
secondly, there would be this massive hole in their calendar. No communications today.
Nothing to see here, move along.
Right, there you go. Nothing to see here, move along, folks. I would actually, while I think that's a wonderful concept, I think the right day to do that would be July 4th, when everybody goes to march on Washington, D.C. to start their camping event and say, we're not leaving until you do. And don't take cell phones with you. I mean, I recognize, the complexities of that. But I have to say that if we don't do something drastic, we're done. I mean, it's going to take that kind of a drastic move. And you know, I'm not trying to say I've got all the answers with that idea, that 90 days that'll change the world thing. But we have to do something that is completely interruptive of the process that they have, that they're moving forward with. I mean, I don't know, even after, let's assume for argument's sake, let's just play a hypothetical scenario out. Let's war game this, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose, for argument's sake, that America did march on Washington, D.C. and said, we're not leaving until you do. And after 30, 60 days, they finally said, all right, we get it. You know, we're going to hold a new national election, and we're going to, anybody who's ever run can't run again. That wouldn't be the end of it, because all of the minions who scurry around like cockroaches in the dark, like the NSA, we'd have to go out there and completely destroy that information that they've gathered. Now, you know, I mean, and
well, and how do you destroy all of these digital copies and things of that nature?
I don't get it. I mean, you know,
yeah.
What do? You wipe out, you bring in a magnet the size of Massachusetts and drop it on one of these things and suck all the ones and zeros out of it? I don't know. That's my point. You see, this problem has become so systemic that's why I say it's like a cancer that that has metastasized and invaded every potential organ, every gland, every bone, every cell. And I'm not sure how we go back and put the genie back in the bottle.
I don't think that we can put the genie back in the bottle. I do, however, believe that no matter what side of the coin you want to look at, we are headed for an economic collapse, and it will do one of two things: either allow us to effectively set up our own governing structures in smaller areas that, you know, will do what the founders hoped that this structure would do, and it did for quite a while, secure ourselves so that we can profit from our labor and, you know, have enough security to be able to plant and harvest and reap the benefits of our labor, or we will allow them to completely control us in a tyrannical sense by herding us all into the cities and, you know, establishing a little bit of power here, a little bit of power there. Here we have more food, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure.
It's the carrot and stick mentality, if you will. So I think that what we can do is look at the situation and make a determination about whether or not we actually believe in our heart of hearts, with our critical thinking engaged, that this can carry on and have any good outcome.
Well, so, I mean, the problem is that, you know, we'd almost have to go back to 18th century living and to unplug, you know, and I'm not quite sure how we do that and still stay informed and still know and be able to recognize when tyranny is approaching us again. I mean, even if you were to form constitutional pockets, if you will, right? And a certain group of states banded together and said, you know, I would love to see, as an example, Missouri, in the fall legislative session, pass a anti-government surveillance nullification act, which says, you know, you're not allowed to do that to any servers in Missouri, and if we or any traffic that you know either comes from or comes from or passes through or stems from Missouri or terminates here. And of course, the question is, how do you police that? I'm not quite sure. I mean, you know, I don't know. You know, now you're talking about putting, you know, submitting an order, a statewide order to AOL and Google and Yahoo that says, you know, this state is different from the other 49, and this is how you have to deal with data here. But, you know, something's got to change. We can't just allow this to go on.
Right.
I mean, we can't allow them to have this, you know, gigantic eye in the sky. I'm reminded of that show from The Hobbit, where they've got this giant eye that sits on top of this pillar and it can see you far away. I mean, you know, and it's malevolent. I mean, it's not. How do you end this? I don't know.
Well, I think that the way that it will end, if it is allowed to continue, is going to be highly detrimental to people's lives in general unless we prepare ourselves and our families to provide for ourselves and our families and to interact with a community and to establish our own system of government within our own community. Because if we don't have security, and if we don't have the peace to be able to grow food, to harvest it, to process it, and distribute it, and other goods as well, shoes, for instance, we're going to be controlled. So I think the objective isn't necessarily any longer to focus on changing everything because, Mike, look, we passed a law in 2009 in the state of Missouri. This isn't D.C., the state of Missouri, that prohibited them from putting in the biometric scanning and all of this uploading to the international databases. And guess what? The agency does it anyway.
Right.
And what do we get when we advocated for a good law that had proper government involved in it? What do we get?
Betrayed.
We get a committee. We get a committee to look at it.
After the governor has violated it.
Meanwhile, they continue to do the same thing, and every day people's licenses are about to expire, and they get notifications, and they have to go in and give up their privacy and illegally have their identity fused into this international database.
I won't do it. I'll drive without a license before I'll do that.
Well, you and I will, but unfortunately, we're still running under the stigma of, okay, well, they'll make it very uncomfortable for me if I'm found to be without the proper papers. So, we have a law that's passed, and then that law has no enforcement provisions.
No teeth.
And nothing happens.
Right. And we've got a governor who willfully, knowingly violated the law. We even have a letter from Napolitano from Department of Homeland Security, who is basically thanking him for the implementation of Real ID in violation of the law a year after the law was passed.
Right.
And we can't get this guy out of office under an impeachment, procedure.
Exactly my point. So to me, the system, while occasionally we will indeed achieve good laws, getting good laws on the books, but evidently the thing is so broken that we can't make it work.
Well, and part of the problem is I don't like the idea, and the whole idea of passing more and more and more and more laws to me is anathema, right? In other words, I don't want to see more laws passed. I want to see a massive repeal. In fact, I'd like to see a party called the Repeal Party rise from the ashes of the Tea Party or the independents that are out there. I'd like to see a third party called the Repeal Party, and their sole function is to go in and hijack the process and remove literally tens of thousands of laws that are on the books that are absolutely treasonous, including all of the stuff that allows this FISA court to go out there and declare it's all done in secret. It's all done. The FISA court is a court of, it's all government. They're the only ones allowed to present anything. The FISA court meets in secret. They hold their hearings in secret. Their results are secret. They're all sealed. I mean, we have no idea what's going on there. It's a council. It's a committee as opposed to being a court. They're calling it a court so that it has some air of legitimacy associated with it, but there's no oversight. Right.
So who watches the watchers?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, and at this point, it's so far gone, I don't know that we can recover. I just don't know how the United States of America comes back from this, short of, a complete isolation and separation of itself from the left and the right coast. I mean, the vast majority of middle America, to be honest with you, what they call the flyover America, which is insulting in and of itself. But, how is it that we as middle America, who really don't look for this ultra, or lean on this ultra liberal progressivism, how do we isolate ourselves from that? We can chat about that when we come back, and maybe some of our listeners will have some ideas in their calls.
All righty.
We'll be back in just a second, folks. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Mike Evans, and we have special guest Doreen Hannes on with us this morning. Doreen has a website at truthfarmer.com.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. More Americans got hired last month than analysts were expecting, with 175,000 jobs added, but unemployment also rose.
The unemployment number coming in at 7.6, ticking up from 7.5 in April. That looks like it's a result of an increased labor force, 400,000 more people going into the labor force than the month before.
Fox Business Network's Peter Barnes, the nation's top intel official, moving to declassify details of a secret surveillance program.
James Clapper calls leaks about surveillance programs reprehensible, but he says the National Security Agency's data mining is legal and limited. His statement on the heels of published reports detailing emails and phone records are being collected on an ongoing basis by federal law enforcement.
Fox News Radio's Jared Halpern, Fox News. We report, you decide.
Visit our outstanding sponsors, West Plains Pawn, located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. West Plains Pawn can be found on the web at westplainspawn.com. You can also reach them via telephone at 417-256-3000. The battery station at 303 Washington Avenue, right off the square in West Plains. They can be reached via telephone at 417-257-7799. They can also be found on the web at batterystation.com. My friends at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. Brian can be reached at 870-492-4030, and he's located at 3225 Route 62, 1/2 mile east of Walmart in Mountain Home. Make sure that you visit our friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains. They have an outstanding lunch special buffet. You can have salad as well as pizza and other pasta, so you can have something tasty and something healthy. Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 2930116. Bill Stone does remodeling, custom and new construction, light commercial, farm work, pretty much the gamut. If you're interested in doing some kind of a new project, make sure that you give Bill Stone at Stone Construction an opportunity to bid on that job. And my dear friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, number 2 Evans Arcade, right off the square in West Plains. She can be reached via telephone at 255-2253. She's got the best damn bakery in 100 miles. And thanks so much to our phone line sponsor, Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop. You can call us on the Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline. He is on the square in West Plains. Excellent opportunity for you to get your hair cut. Get over there and visit. America's Voice Now, delivering truth over mainstream propaganda every single day. Hi, my name is Michael Evans, and I'm your host, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and Saturday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Join me daily for important guests and my unique slant on hot topics in the news. Visit americasvoicenow.org for even more news, articles, and commentary, and watch our show streaming live to your PC. Share your morning with me. Get educated, informed, motivated, and activated. America's Voice Now, right here on 107.1.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 107.1 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
From the Point Weather Center, for this morning, areas of fog, otherwise sunny today with a high of 74. Partly cloudy tonight, low 52. Tomorrow's going to be a sunny day, high 78. Partly cloudy tomorrow night, low 60. Sunday, clouds and sunshine, maybe a thunderstorm. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Coast to Coast AM brings the Ozarks a whole new feel for radio. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point. Where else would you get callers talking about everything from UFOs to war trends, from mental energy to anomalies, and from lost knowledge to aliens? Listen to experts and researchers who are part of the guest list every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk. Don't miss Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
All right, we are returning. A couple of things I want to mention to you folks quick. I would like for you to make sure that you're helping to support our sponsors who you just heard from there a few minutes ago during the break. You know, these sponsors are the guys who keep this show on the air so that you're informed. And it's crucial that you support them. and that you assist, in their business, because they believe that this show is so important, they're willing to put up money to keep it on the air. And man, that's an amazing statement of their credibility and loyalty to our Constitution and what we do here every day about informing you. So I'd like to specifically mention the Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance folks. They're down in Mountain Home, and they provide a host of products that are everything from camping gear to survival gear, freeze-dried food and food products from 4 different manufacturers. They have Wise and Noah's Pantry, and they have a host of Mountain House and a couple of others. So anyway, I'd love for you guys to get down there and see them, or give them a call, and you can talk to them about what the options are. You can find their website at Ozark MTN, like the abbreviation for mountain. It's OzarkMTN Self-Reliance.com. Now, they're down on Mountain Home, just about a half a mile before Walmart on the left-hand side there, and on Route 62. And they are a great group of people. They're very nice folk. They live locally here in Missouri, but they have their location down there in Mountain Home. So if you wanted to buy some bulk, instead of having it shipped, they could actually probably just drop it off for you up here. So I encourage you to visit their website. It is OzarkMTNSelfReliance.com. And please make sure that you visit with those folks. I'd also like to remind you that Greg McLaughlin from Black Ops School of Combat here in West Plains will be holding a concealed carry course on June 29th. Now, that runs it from 8 a.m. and it runs for the whole day. It's an 8-hour class. And the cost is $75 per person. And you'll shoot a semi-automatic and a revolver. If you're missing one or the other, Greg has firearms available that you can use. You can use a .22, by the way, because the state law does not restrict that. And there's classroom time and then there's range time, and you got to do both according to the state law in order to qualify for your CCW. Now, for the record, since some of that issue has been cleared up, stop worrying about being on lists, people. First of all, you have a right to express and support the Second Amendment, and you have a right to defend yourself. And so, listen, and by the way, you're already on so many lists, as you've just heard all this week. I don't know what more lists you think you can be on. So stop worrying. Just go out there and do what you do, and the hell with these list makers and monitors and all the rest of that. They're already monitoring you. They know what color underwear you like. They know whether you prefer boxers or briefs, and they know what color stripe you like on your socks. So who really cares whether or not they know you got a CCW? I mean, come on. They already know you got guns anyhow, because they can go in there and pull the records from every gun store in the country just on the whim. And if you think they're not building a database out of that stuff, you're fooling yourself. So make sure that you get down there to blackopsschoolofcombat.com. That's blackops, schoolofcombat.com. And also, you can call Greg and schedule. He also does a class where he'll do a 2-day class, like 4 hours one evening and 4 hours another evening. And he's got a great program out there. I think, and you have to check with Greg on this, but I believe that if you bring 5 additional people to the class, your particular program is free. And so what'll happen is you can bring a family group or a group of your neighbors or buddies together, and one of you will go for free, whoever's the initiator for that. You can call Greg at 255-1612. That's 255-1612. Or you can find his website at blackopsschoolofcombat.com. He also travels, and he can do training at your location. He does a lot more than just concealed carry as well. So if you'd like a tactical course, or you'd like a self-loading rifle course, Greg has got a long history and a great resume for that stuff. All right, we're going to jump back with our friend Doreen, and we're going to continue on our topic and our discussion surrounding basically the malfeasance of government, willful malfeasance, and the malfeasance of our national press in failing to do their job of keeping America informed. And we do have a caller on the line. We'll check with him real quick, or her real quick, and then we'll move on. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Mike. Hello, Doreen. I've been listening all week, and I know these other issues are pressing and right in front of us. But I'm very, very curious, and I'm sure there's others curious, to find out the feedback from the sheriff's convention and where the sheriff fits into all of this. Is there? I mean, he's the authority of the county. To what degree is his authority, and just what can he do, and how can we support him or her to support us in protecting our boundaries and protecting our livelihoods? I mean, do you have any feedback on this? And if you can expand on it in the next few days' shows, it would be fantastic. Thank you, Mike.
I was going to try. Okay, you're welcome. I was going to try to cover Saturday the issues surrounding the CSPOA. You know, I wanted to try to cover that this week, and of course, all of these other events that are happening. And I had an opportunity to have that guest on, Teresa Douglas, to talk to you folks about the issues of how they're implementing Agenda 21 up in St. Louis. And so I felt that it was important that you guys get that opportunity to hear that, especially in light of this Blue Ways thing. And honestly, guys, there's so much treason going on and so much tyranny going on and being shoved down our throats with a plunger these days, it's hard to keep up on it all. I know that the CSPOA convention is an important aspect, but, you know, some of these news issues are also important for us to cover. So as far as CSPOA goes, yes, I think these sheriffs that attended this thing, and there were probably 200, there was about 300 people who registered total, and probably 250 of those were law enforcement or government, you know, officials, or public officials as the term is. And I think the general consensus between those that I met or listened to or heard or was very strongly in favor of the fact that sheriffs are the last line of defense. You know, some of them are, and there were some other chiefs of police in there too, not just sheriffs. But the difference between a chief of police and a sheriff is the sheriff is elected and the chief of police is appointed, you know. Right. And a mayor and city council can kind of direct their behavior, where in a sheriff, you know, he's got a lot more autonomy and authority, frankly. And so, you know, in that regard, I think these sheriffs were stand-up individuals. They really presented the case that, you know, their goal and their motivation is to support their citizens and stand against government tyranny in all of its forms, not just related to, you know, issues that are the most blatant ones like firearms and things like that, but also in their unwillingness to support that which we know to be extra constitutional action by the federal government. So, as an example, you know, I've brought this out before, 54 out of 63 sheriffs in Colorado have refused to support the new gun ban that Colorado was presented. And in fact, there's a recall petition out there for that governor right now, and the head of their Senate, there's been 16,000 signatures filed against him to get him pulled back under a recall. And that's more signatures than the guy actually received votes for in the election. So let me tell you what's going on here in the country, folks. Politicos and politicians of all shapes and sizes are passing legislation that the people don't agree with, because the people in Colorado want that repealed. And the people in New York want that repealed too. Unfortunately, you got scumbag tyrants like Cuomo in New York and Hickenlooper in Colorado who are out there abusing their authority and their delegated authority from their people. And their House members and their Senate members are doing the same thing. It's up to each of us to make sure that we keep our senators on their feet to the fire. But in the meantime, sheriffs are doing whatever they can do to try to. But remember, too, these are individuals who only have one voice. But right. You know, I saw your question to me in an email the other day, caller, about whether or not they have the right to stand up against this unconscionable milk stuff that's going on. There was a sheriff there who was given an award, actually, for doing that. He went in and he told the FDA, if you step foot on this property, you will be arrested. And they left because he fought back. He just pushed back. And the simple truth is they know damned well that the federal government has no authority on private land in an individual state. And so he went in there and he looked right at him and he said, if you abuse this farmer one more time, I'm arresting you and I'm charging you with harassment. And they left, and they've never been back since. So yes, it does work. Yes, sheriffs do have authority. Yes, they can push back. Yes, they can take control of a situation like that. But they have to be willing to do that, and they have to be willing to take the flack that comes with it. So, you know,
also, Michael, as far as the electronic surveillance and such goes, I mean, all electronic communication is basically looked at as being in interstate commerce, and a sheriff isn't necessarily going to have, one, the budget or the capability of controlling, electronic surveillance.
True. And how do they police it, right? No pun intended. So, even if you pass a resolution like that, they don't have the funding, the wherewithal, the manpower, and or the authority to walk in and say to AT&T, hey, that line that runs through the middle of my county, no more. Or I'll cut it with a backhoe. I mean, they don't have the authority to do that. So, to a certain extent, there's a limit to how far and how far they can push it. And I get that. I think that the issue here is that sheriffs around the nation are standing up, stating that we emphatically made our pledge to the Constitution, and that's what we're adhering to, not all this nonsense out of D.C. We'll be back in just 1 second, folks.
365 days a year, we celebrate holidays, anniversaries, and other important days. But there is one day you look forward to, your birthday.
I wanna wish you a happy birthday.
Ryan's Steakhouse of West Plains is proud to bring you the Birthday Club weekday mornings with
Cooper & Company.
Our daily winner receives one buffet and a drink to Ryan's. Just call your birthdays in weekday mornings with Cooper & Company at 255-0427. Brought to you by Ryan's and the Ozarks Best News Talk.
And happy birthday to you!
Cha-cha-cha-cha.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington in West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819.
I saw a penguin fly out of a U.S. Cellular store with a new Samsung Galaxy smartphone. Sounds crazy, but U.S. Cellular's offering $100 off a new Samsung Galaxy phone. If that's crazy, I'm a loon.
Switch to U.S. Cellular and say hello to the Galaxy S4 for only $99.99 or the Samsung Galaxy S3 for free. U.S. Cellular. Hello better. After $100 mail-in rebate that comes as a MasterCard debit card, applicable data plan required, new 2-year agreement, and $35 device activation fee may apply. Certain restrictions apply. See store for details.
Boy, is the fine print at the end of those commercials insulting or what? By the way, that means we get to take all your money and your firstborn too.
It's like the FDA disclaimers.
Right, I mean, that's ridiculous. I do want to mention, by the way, that the Battery Station in West Plains has our co-op available for our listeners. And so if you are a listener and you would like to participate in the co-op, go into the Battery Station and tell them that you'd like to see the co-op list. There's a brand new list being formed. The last delivery was just done. You have an opportunity to go in there as a listener of America's Voice Now. This is a program only open to our listeners. It's not open to the general public. So you have to go into the Battery Station and ask for a copy of the co-op list. They'll give it to you. You can place your order right there, and then they'll call you when the stuff is delivered. You can order bulk food. You can order bulk rice, bulk grains, wheat, flour, sugar, salt, whatever you want. I mean, this is an excellent opportunity for you to dramatically, and I do mean dramatically, cut your food bill. And if you're somebody out there with a passel of kids, by the way, you know how fast we go through that. So you can order food in bulk and then store it away at home. I had one listener who went down there and spent a few $100, came back and said that the next time the order was going through, he was going to triple that because he did the math on it against what it would have cost him to go buy that food at retail, like in a general grocery store, and he saved over 50% by doing it that way. So if there's two reasons to do it. One, self-reliance, which is the preparation that Doreen and I are talking about this morning. But also, in addition to that, hey, I mean, we can all afford to save a little bit of money, right? So make sure that you get over to the folks over at Battery Station and ask them about your co-op catalog, and they'll make sure they hand it to you. You just go out there, write down what you want, put your order in, and you're on your merry way. They'll call you or email you when it's in. You can come down and pick it up. Also, while you're there, if you're on antidepressants, make sure you ask Kevin about a product he has down there which helps flush that out of your body. It works very, very well. It's very quick, and it helps you get off of the stupid pill that all your doctors and our government are pushing down your throat to make you an apathetic automaton. We were talking before about privacy issues, Doreen, and that city in Iowa who just passed these red light camera and drone and license plate reader ban. That is impressive because in accordance with what that caller was talking about with us before, he was, saying, what can sheriffs do? Well, here's an example where these folks in Iowa City got together and passed a bill in their city alone. Now, it's only a citywide bill, but I like to look at it like a model for what the nation could do and cities around the country, no matter how big or small they are. And what they've banned, folks, is red light cameras and traffic enforcement cameras, drones, and automatic license plate recognition systems.
Right.
What the city of Iowa said, or Iowa City said, is, you know what, we've had it with this Big Brother crap. Enough's enough. And for the record, if you were at that presentation that Dan Page did, he said all of those cameras are tied back in, at least in our area, are all tied back into St. Louis, where they're all monitored and that information is captured, indefinitely for all intents and purposes. And so this is a perfect opportunity. There's a website out there. First of all, you can go to the New American to find the link. I'll put it up on Facebook and our own website as well. But there is a website out there called ArsTechnica.com, ArsTechnica, ArsTechnica.com. And they have a whole article about this. And what I'm going to try to get a hold of this piece of legislation, because what I think I'd like to see us do, Doreen, yourtruthfarmer.com and AVN, AmericasVoiceNow.org, we can put this up there, allow our readers and followers and such to grab a hold of this. Maybe we can tweet it out and put it up on Facebook, and people can start submitting this into their own city ordinances and putting it up for a vote, because it does matter. Everything that we do, everybody says, "Oh, I'm only one person. What can I do?" Well, here's what you can do. You can storm into your city, and say, "Hey, we've got a coalition of grassroots city people who are going to a city council meeting, and you guys are going to pass this thing." Right?
Well, you could say, if you guys are any good, you're going to pass this thing. That's for sure.
Well, but you see, we carry the weight of one, public opinion, two, the force and weight of voters. And that's something that, that's the only thing that politicians fear anyway, right? I mean, that's the only thing that politicians fear is voters.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true.
The next election. But in addition to that, what we can also do is say, well, if you're not going to pass this, then we're going to vote down the next tax incentive you try to pass for some other nonsensical crap. In other words, make the penalty so painful for the city that they will do what we tell them to do. It doesn't have to be a city, by the way. It could be your town, your village. It could be a large city, a small city. Right. And, sit down with a group of folks in your community and put together the arguments for why you're going to do this, and then put together the threat that you're going to hold over their head if they don't. And that sword of Damocles should be held over them to make them pass this. Whether that is, okay, but we know that you've got a tax initiative you're going to try to pass to get another 3/8 of a cent for tax on a hotel room or some other nonsensical garbage. Or in the case of West Plains, they're trying to move to a charter city. Great. Right. You don't pass this, I'm going to defeat your charter city bill after you just spent $300,000 in a year putting it together. You want to play tit for tat? You want to play hardball? We'll show you how to hit the ball out of the park. Right. And go back to them and say, this is how we're going to do it. You're either going to do it and do what's right for us as the citizenry and the residents who live here and pay taxes here and support you guys and are paying your salaries and or putting you in office, or we're going to make sure that what you want to do, you'll never be allowed to do.
Right.
I
think, we did in the state of Missouri have for a couple of years in the General Assembly a law to repeal the red light cameras, to make them completely, null and void. And I think that kind of thing is very positive. One thing that I would like to see added to the Iowa bill right now, what they have in this Iowa City as an ordinance, not really a bill, is drones, autoplate recognition, red light cameras, correct?
Right. Those are the three.
Now, what if they added biometric cameras?
There you go. That would actually be it. And you know what? Maybe you and I should sit down and put together a couple of, just throw some extra ideas on the table to, cover what this, because you know what? The idea of biometric cameras would also then apply to DOR, wouldn't it?
Yes. Huh? Well,
I like more than one way to
wrenches.
skin the kitty cat.
So I mean, at any rate, I think that is really the thing that's proliferating: the drones and the biometric recognition. Those things are really proliferating, but they want cities to go along with them. So usually what the federal government does through its state counterpart is offer up funding to cities to implement these kind of, Orwellian programs. I mean, let's just call them what they are.
Right.
It is Big Brother. So, that is something positive that people can do, and I believe we have to do everything that we can do, Mike.
I agree.
Earlier I was expressing a little bit of frustration with the fact that we pass good laws and then those laws are simply violated and there's no penalty, know. But if we continue to advocate, and usually on a closer scale, it's better within your city, within your town, within your county, and within your state. And so much for D.C. Let's, I have no capacity to encourage people.
We knew that was lost on November 6th.
Well, I thought it was lost before, but that was definitely the final nail in the coffin, if you will. But
the first clods of earth hit the top of the coffin, right, when we heard that.
Right, but if we go in and we develop a relationship with our city representatives and with our county representatives, and we show them documentation, don't just go in there with your hair on fire, going, you have to stop this, Go in there with documentation and give them the backup that they need to do the right thing. Then perhaps this kind of a movement can progress across the nation.
Well, you know what? We know it does work, and I'll tell you how we can see that. We see states across the board passing legislation like the Second Amendment Preservation Act, the Sound Money Act, and all of these other, what we know to be constitutional nullification laws, right?
Right.
And we're seeing it everywhere, and it's springing up. Counties are passing prohibitions on different things, and cities are passing prohibitions like Iowa City here. We're seeing sheriffs who are standing up and saying, I'm not going to do that. So we know that the groundswell of support is here, and guess what else? This is like, we feel the ground rising up underneath us, and Americans ought to be taking heart in that, because it does tell us that, while the media is not letting the vast majority of America know that, we can see the signs around us everywhere that, yes, government's out of control, but people are beginning to rise up. And so what we want to make sure that we're doing is, this is like a brand new plant that's come out of the ground, and it's our job to now make sure that we're fertilizing it and watering it and speaking nice to it, and, all the other things we do to get our plants to grow and mature and bear fruit. So, every time a city or a county passes something like this, or we pass this Blue Ways blockage, that's a boon and a benny for us, and it also encourages other people in other states to do the same thing.
Right.
So
exactly.
Hey, thank
you. Advocate for freedom.
There you go. Thank you so much for joining with us today, Doreen. You're always a blessing, and you're a font of knowledge. I'll tell you what. I don't know what our area would do without you, and I mean that sincerely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Blessings.
Doreen has that blog that you guys need to get to. It's called truthfarmer.com. truthfarmer.com. Also, make sure that you're visiting prcnews.org, prcnews.org. That is where the updates are going on the Blue Ways fight. If you're not communicating with your local county commissioner to stop that, you need to be doing that. Make sure that you're communicating with all three of them. We'll see you folks tomorrow morning, bright and early.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.